Yo, what's going on YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte. We are taking a look today at the San Jose Sharks as they start to rebuild or continue the rebuild. We're going to be looking at some of the names that could be thrown out there. We heard some rumors last week from a big hockey insider about some big potential moves coming to the San Jose Sharks. We'll be taking a look at that in this video. If you guys like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey and want to see the latest news around the NHL, you guys know what to do. Make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe down below. And let's take a look at the San Jose Sharks. So the San Jose Sharks, like I said, from a big hockey insider, we got some news about the Sharks maybe trading some guys that some Sharks fans probably don't want to hear. So according to Kevin Kurz, he wonders if if it's time to trade one or both of San Jose Sharks forwards Timo Meier and Kevin Labanc. So those are some pretty big names for the Sharks. Obviously, they're better scoring forwards. Timo Meier has 3 years left on his restricted free agent contract. He's making $6 million. And like I said, he will be an RFA eligible at that time at the end of the deal. So 3 years left on Timo Meier. Kevin Labanc just signed a 4-year deal worth $4.725. Now you may be saying, why would they trade a guy like Kevin Labanc or Timo Meier? That's a great question. So there's two main reasons. There's two. One is to move out some salary cap space to maybe bring in other acquisitions. And the other reason is because they're the most valuable assets they have on the team. And they kind of intertwine because let's say let's just pick a team, the Minnesota Wild, right? I'm the Minnesota Wild. So I'm looking at the San Jose Sharks roster. Doug Wilson says, hey, I really like, I'm not saying they're going to trade Kirill Kaprizov. Okay, let's do Matt Dumba, right? Because there's a possibility. Okay, I'm Doug Wilson and I'm looking at, Bill Guerin's team and I say, I want Matt Dumba. Look at my roster and think of some, maybe a trade proposal. So I'm going to be Bill Guerin. I'm going to look at the lineup. I'm going to say Logan Couture, 7 years, modified no trade clause, $8 million per season, and he's already 32 years old. That doesn't end till he's 40. Probably not going to touch Logan Couture. Evander Kane, we know everything that's been going on with him, but again, modified no trade clause, 5 years left. He's going to be 34 when that deal's over. He's making $7 million per season. But again, with this Vegas money situation with Evander Kane, a lot of that money may not even be going to Kane. So now you're dealing with the backlash of all of that, right? So those are your two biggest valued contracts on the team. If I'm Bill Guerin, I'm probably not even looking that way. Timo Meier, again, we already talked about Meier. Tomas Hertl has 2 years left. He's going to be 29 at the end of that deal, and he's making $5.6 million. That may be something that a team would look at, is a guy like Tomas Hertl. But then Sharks fans are going to say, well, I don't want to trade Tomas Hertl. Exactly, that's the point. You don't want to trade your valuable assets, but that's what teams on the outside are going to look at. Ryan Donato, okay, so those are all one-year deals. Ooh, what's really attractive? Ooh, let's look at the defense. 7 years left on Erik Karlsson's deal. That deal won't end until he's 37. He's making $11.5 million per season. Ooh, teams are just going to be running to the Sharks for a guy like Erik Karlsson, right? Yeah, no, not happening. In Doug Wilson's dreams. Brent Burns, hey, he's a pretty good defenseman, right? He started to decline a little bit, but he's still 36. His contract doesn't end until he's 41 years old. He's making $8 million per season. Not taking that either. Nobody's taking those two. Marc-Edouard Vlasic, ooh, no move clause. He's got 6 years left, and he's 34 years old. That contract won't end until he's 40, and he's making $7 million per season. You guys know what's going to happen here. Let's all do it together now. Not happening. Nobody's touching Karlsson, Burns, or Vlasic with a 10-foot pole, a 30-foot pole, and a 900-foot pole. Nobody is going to touch those contracts. Maybe Vlasic if they could get it down to half, which I don't know if the Sharks would even bother then because they're retaining $3.5 million for a guy that's not even on their team. That doesn't seem likely. So then it brings up Radim Šimić. Again, he looks pretty solid, 2.25 for the next 4 years. Okay. But again, with the Sharks, he has a bigger role with the Sharks in the top four. But if he goes to another team on a third pairing, nobody wants to pay a third pairing guy 2.25. So that probably wouldn't work for most teams. But he's a lot more attractive with salary cap than, say, Brent Burns, Vlasic, or Carlson. Goaltending. Oh, this one's fun. So Martin Jones is making $5.75 per season. He's 31. That contract won't end until he's 35. Modified no trade clause. Okay, let's do it again. Not happening. Nobody's taking him either. So there are a lot of untouchable contracts with the Sharks. So it brings up the discussion, well then if they can't trade Carlson, if they can't trade Burns, if they can't trade Vlasic, if they can't trade Jones, if they can't trade Evander Kane, if they can't trade Logan Couture, then who can they trade? And it's those forwards, which they need more of, but those are their only valuable assets at this point. And those are Timo Meier, Tomas Hertl, Kevin Labanc, and some of those young guys like Donato, Barbanov, Leonard, Gregor, Trouet, those guys. And those are the guys that teams are going to look at on the Sharks. But the Sharks, I think in that situation, with where the Sharks are at right now, you may... it's tough. Because what you have to do, you have to look at who is the best buyout. Because you've got Carlson, Burns, and Vlasic. If you could decide which one is the best to buy out this summer, maybe you do that. Or if I'm playing GM mode, which again, this is a totally different situation, but you're playing NHL GM mode. You have the Sharks. You can't move those guys, okay? You could trade them for draft picks, but realistically, teams are not going to trade for those three guys. So you've got to I would just keep them. Whatever, let them play. Everybody's got their number 65 jerseys now that they bought not even 3 years ago. Let them get some use out of that Carlson jersey. You know, wear that nice teal jersey, that heritage teal jersey. Just keep all that. Keep these players and just keep tanking. And it sucks for the Sharks fans, but they had their window to win, and it quickly blew up in their face and kind of fell apart. So Martin Jones, Logan Couture, Evander Kane, all those guys, I wouldn't trade them because the problem is if you're trading them, you're giving up draft picks to get rid of these contracts. And the problem is once San Jose starts bringing in some of these rookie guys, they're not going to need that extra cap space quite yet. So by the time that this team starts rolling around, maybe say in 5 years, you could get rid of a Logan Couture contract or a Erik Karlsson or a Brent Burns or a Marc-Edouard Vlasic and buy them out with 1 or 2 years left on that deal than say the 5 or 6 that is still remaining to this day. And yeah, it's not a good situation for the Sharks. I don't envy Doug Wilson one bit. But this is a fun team if you want to do a GM mode. They are a great team to do because they are so cap constrained. And if you want to be realistic and not trade those guys, it makes things very interesting. So, like I said, people are going to hate the idea that they have to move out Timo Meier or Kevin Labanc or Tomas Hertl. But like I said, realistically, who on the Sharks is even worth anything? Ryan Merkley, everything that he's been through, is he worth, really even acquiring? So those are the kind of guys that the Sharks could maybe still move. Like I said, I think the big guys are Hertl, Labanc, and Timo Meier. But there are other guys that could draw interest, I think, still, like a John Leonard or a Noah Gregor or even a Nikolai Nezhov. Let's take a look at their roster. Who's some other guys? Yeah, like their prospect system doesn't even look that great. I mean, like I said, you still have Ryan Merkley, so they're Jacob Middleton, Nicholas Malash. But at the end of the day, the Sharks need a rebuild. And the best thing you could do is keep the team you have. Just keep running it because you've locked contracts into those guys. So keep them. Don't give up draft picks just to move out their money. Keep them. Keep your draft picks and just keep getting first-round draft picks any way you can. If it means trading Tomas Hertl, if it means trading Timo Meier, Kevin Labanc, if it means trading those guys to get more draft picks and more draft capital, and with your team probably not being that good over the next couple years, you're kind of locked into Martin Jones right now. just keep things the way they are for a couple of years and say, I hate to say it, 4 or 5 years from now, the Sharks can think about, turning this team around with some of their draft capital, maybe drafting some good prospects, and maybe starting to buy out some of those contracts like Erik Karlsson or a Logan Couture or a Brent Burns, Vlasic, whatever. So, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you think of the San Jose Sharks in their rebuild? Because this is not going to be a one-night fix for Doug Wilson. There's some massive contracts on this team. Obviously, an exclamation point on the Erik Karlsson deal, but there's just big contracts all around. And the San Jose Sharks, their window closed pretty quickly, so they still got a lot of time on those deals. So, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What do you think the San Jose Sharks should do? Do you think, because I think they've already explored the possibility of trading guys like Burns, Vlasic, and Karlsson. I don't see teams taking those 3 guys, especially with a flat salary cap. And if the Sharks aren't going to give up their draft capital or prospect capital, which I don't see why they should, they're going to have to be stuck with those deals, which means you have to trade other assets to get assets back. And those guys may be Kevin Labanc, Timo Meier, and a guy like Tomas Hertl, who his contract is the soonest to end in, not next summer, but in the summer of 2022. Timo Meier will be an unrestricted free agent, and that's kind of kind of a scary thought, especially with where the Sharks will probably be at that point. Tomas Hertl may not even want to stay in San Jose at that point. So, guys, like I said, thank you so much for watching this video. If you guys like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey and want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and let's go Sharks.